Good day, everyone. It's another episode of our series of Better Aging. And today I'm super happy to finally not just talk to doctors, but someone with a bit of a broader approach on better aging, but not broader, but not just medical, let's put it that way. So I'm very happy to welcome Feisal Alibhai. I always have difficulties with your last name, Feisal. I'm very sorry.
It's
Alibhai.
all good. It's all good.
Feisal has founded a company called Qineticare. Qineticare is, correct me if I'm saying something stupid here, a family health office.
That's correct.
What I like very much about your approach is that we're not just looking at pure medical care, but we're looking at two more aspects of the entire concept of health, which one is emotions and two, relationships. And to me, it makes perfect sense that if you are surrounded by a lot of negative emotions or bad thought patterns or bad relationships, it somehow will affect your health. And this is exactly what I would like to talk to you about, Feisal. Can you maybe let us know how positive or emotions in general and healthy relationships could contribute to better aging?
So first, thank you very much, Peter, for having me. Thank you for taking the risk to go a little broader, a little wider. So I want to take a step back, if you don't mind, and just look at the, remember, the human system is the most intelligent and complex system that exists. And for us to take a single dimensional approach, which you're referring to as medical, to be able to master or hack this complex system, to me feels a little bit basic, okay, with all due respect to the medical industry. So for us, I mean, this whole happened due to my own illness. So what happened was when I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer and I asked the doctors what happened, they couldn't explain. And the founder of the cure was my advisor. And that to me was very dumbfounded that you have a supposed cure, which is chemo, for my situation, which had 10 tumors, big ego, big cancer. But at the same time, you can't tell me the origin. And my DNA was clean. So that's how it all began for me to go into a state of self-reflection and introspection. And fast forward today, 17 years, right? Where 7 years I ran a family health office for my family, and now 10 years for others. We look at humans from a multidimensional perspective, which we call an integrative perspective, where we look at the physical, which is beyond also some of the medical pieces. So we look at nutrition, we look at fitness, we look at sleep health, gut health, brain health, epigenetics, genomics, drivers of behavior. We go as far as movement and posture. We go to cognoscopies because dementia now is the elephant in the room. It's not cancer, right? So we're really even looking at the physical side is even broad medical, very broad. Then we look at, like you asked for, the mental, emotional, and the relational. And what I realized, and we look at, my role personally, I'm the integrator. I look at source of disease. And when we speak to, I was just in London a few weeks ago, and I spoke to the professor of gastroenterology. And I said, Professor, tell me that the individuals you see who have Crohn's, who have colitis, who have colon cancer, are you telling me that it's just medical, it's a straightforward genetic or physical manifestation? He said, no. I said, then why are we not taking a broader approach? And he's like, well, we have people like you to now broaden that, right? So just like when you're asking, do good relationships or good thoughts or good emotions, what do? They release chemicals in our body that are positive, right? That bring in, I mean, as you know, the endorphins and all of those things. But at the same time, the negative is the opposite, right? And the negative, if you look at, you end up with, like myself, when until recently, not recently, a few years ago, where I had my own work on my gut, if I got stressed, my stomach would go sideways. And if you look at most people that we deal with as families, when they're having emotional or relational issues, the first thing that goes is their gut. And the second thing due to the gut is their sleep. This is a very common theme that is occurring across families who are being challenged by their family dynamics.
Yeah.
Right? So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So I was just, I wanted to jump in there because there's something that, I mean, personally, I can totally relate to this. No, I mean, I see that in our daily business. Right, just to give you a few examples, you have someone arriving in Switzerland, and we want to take care of them, and all of a sudden they are in the wrong clinic, and you go like, you know, and I can physically feel this, that it's harming me. I can feel it, you know. So, but I cannot always avoid these situations. Now, what I would be interested in the context of better aging.
Yeah.
What would you do with someone, let's say, coming from a wealthy family, having a lot of pressure on, you know, who's good, who's not, who's good for you, who's honest with you, who's not. I mean, there are tons of, let's say, emotional relationship related insecurities that I'm 100% convinced will affect health to some extent. Could you give us an example how you would work on these, let's say, bad patterns?
Yeah. Okay, so what I'd do is let's break into two sides. One we can do individually, and then one with external support, right? So I want to take a step back again. Sorry, I keep taking a step back. Is what we look at is we say, okay, we look at first step is how do we build resilience? But in reality, what we're looking for is how do we build anti-fragility? Because it's beyond resilience. It's agility and adaptability to whatever may come. COVID was a black swan, quote unquote, right? And for our families that were in our care, we said, it's game time. Because what we look at, we say, okay, how can we on a day-to-day basis make sure and keep filling our physical cup, our mental, emotional cup, and our relational cup? Okay, so every experience like the one we're having now will have a physical imprint, a mental, emotional imprint, and a relational imprint, depending on the meaning you and I give to this experience and our response. Okay, so again, the meaning I give and you give to this experience and our response. Those are the only two things we control, Peter, in life, right?
Really?
So now how do I fill my physical cup? I do it through nutrition, through fitness, through good quality sleep, to maintain my gut, maintain my brain quality, you know, and all of that. Now, on the mental, emotional, there's basic things. So the first one, obviously, you eat well, you exercise, whether it's strength training, whether it's cardio, like myself, I play tennis twice a week, I swim twice a week, I trek twice a week, I rebound. I know it may sound a little crazy, but I do it because I don't want to be one-sided. I mean, you know, we have to be balanced, right? Now, when it comes to mental, emotional, I have in front of me a journal, right? We give this to every family. And every day I journal. Every day I meditate. I start my day with meditation. I end my day with meditation, right? Because how you start your day determines your day. How you end your day determines your sleep, right? So these are basic things that we don't need training for, right? We can, well, meditation, you might want to get training, but it's still things that are kind of free, right? And so these would be very simple things that you could do yourself, right? Without the external support. Now, on the relationship side, it's a little different, right? Because there is, you know, triggers that are going on. Now, there we work with families where we provide support, right? Because there we're affected on the mental, emotional relation by beliefs and patterns from this generation and from the past. Some may be serving you, some may not. So you may want to reconsider those beliefs and patterns, right? You also may want to look at some of the drivers of behavior that you have that are subconscious, that are been there and neurowired for a very long time, and to want to maybe reconsider those drivers of behavior from nutrition, fitness, and relationship. It's the knee-jerk response that just happens naturally, right? Because it's reactive, right? Then you would look at being in truth is that, am I living in alignment between my values, my talents, my aspirations? Am I living in integrity? Because that's where a lot of things start going wrong internally, because I'm living 2-3 lives. You know, I have my family, you know, people at work, I have the work person and the other person. In family businesses and families, that also is divided. I cannot be my true self, right? But it all begins
basically
where I say,
it's you are living expectations of others, right?
Yes. The impositions, the expectations, the judgment, but also let's give credit. We also have self-imposed expectations and impositions, right? That we assume is being put on us, right? I think the other piece is what we're never taught, at least I was not taught, which is self-love and self-care, right? What is my relationship with myself to begin with? Am I in a family where I'm trying to prove my worth? One of the chapters in my book is, am I good enough? That's probably 90% of next gen asking themselves that question and trying to prove their worth. In my case, it was pretending to be proving my worth to my father when actually it was to myself, right? So at the end of the day, it's relationship with myself, then my loved ones, and then the family at large. So I did not have a mentor. I did not have a coach. I did not have a support system, even though I was the CEO of a very large enterprise, right? In 15 countries, 10,000 employees, hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. I did not have that support system. So that is something I would nudge, you know, a lot of the people listening or the families to consider, because that is something we cannot see our blind spots, Peter, as you know, right? Even when you drive a car, remember when you change lanes, you look at the blind spot because the mirrors are not able to show you those. It's the same thing, but here you have others who help you see what you cannot see or are not willing to see, or it's too painful to see.
Let me come back to this one point that you mentioned. I like that one, agility.
Yes.
Agility to react to a situation.
Yes.
I could immediately relate to this when you told me about this. So I'm going back to my example. It's a fictional one. It's not really happening, but actually sometimes it's happening, but usually we manage. But so we are welcoming a guest. Actually, I was last week with a guest coming to Switzerland for some neurological problem. We went to the clinic, and it was the doctor was actually not in the clinic, but he was in his own practice, which we didn't know. So not a major issue. We drove down 5 minutes, but for me at that point, a lot of stress, right?
Yeah.
Now, for me, when I go back to your concept of agility and reinterpreting,
yes.
I would need to tell me, look, that's a stressful situation. Something didn't go right, but now nothing you can do about it, right?
Yeah.
So you need to adapt and you need to solve.
Yes.
Is that the kind of learnings you provide with the external coaches, or?
Yeah, so it's the reality was in that situation, the key is if you show up fully engaged, which I know you do, Peter, right? With everything you have, with full presence, full capacity, you are doing your best. And then you let go. I don't want to use the next word, which I do, is let God, but because some people don't like the word God. And then it is what it is. So you went in, you realized that it wasn't the appropriate choice. You were in the wrong place, quote unquote, right? And then it is what it is. It will pass. And now what? And then boom. But the thing is that you need to build that muscle in terms of that mental muscle and that emotional muscle to be able to shift into that gear. And that's why I was referring to COVID. A lot of the families we were taking care of, because they had filled the cups and because they had learned to build resilience, they were able to adapt much faster in the shock of COVID than others. And they were also open to listen to solutions, because remember, Asia was first. Europe came 2 months later. So we already had a little bit of a training plus we had SARS. Okay, so we had special training. You know, in Hong Kong, we had even more training because of the protests. So we were already able to work online. Okay, so we were super prepared, right? So you understand. So the thing is that how do we build that muscle? It's like going to the gym. You go to the gym and you work out and you build that muscle. Are we building the mental muscle? Are we building the emotional muscle? And are we building the relational muscle? Yeah. So there's the muscle and the cup. And as that muscle is built, it becomes automatic. It's an auto response. You don't have to think and be like, you know, yes, for a second, you can say, Peter, not a good choice. And then boom, because it's not about living in the blame and shame. And that's what a lot of people get stuck in. They stay in blame and shame. And then they're not able to move forward. Because if you stay calm, you stay centered. Yes, you're not happy with what is, but you stay calm and centered, the clarity will come. But if you're not calm and centered and not trusting that life is happening in perfection, the clarity will not come. And then you start getting raffled. And then you have a situation, which I know you didn't have because you were able to pivot, right?
Okay, I mean, that was not the most difficult thing, but yeah. it's these situations that somehow can affect your health, and I guess everybody can relate to them. Feisal, we don't want these podcasts or video casts to be too long. That's why I'm going to my last question.
Yes.
We're talking about better aging.
Yes.
Your 3 go-to tips to age well and age healthy.
Number 1, sleep. Make sleep the number 1 priority. Without rest and recovery, your nutrition and your movement, fitness is compromised. So make sleep number 1. Number 2, really invest in self-care and self-love in whatever form that is, right? From the physical space, the mental, emotional, the relational, really work on that piece because your relationship, your outer is a reflection of your inner, right? So really work on that, get the support, have people support you on those reflections, right? And the third is, I know it's oversaid and thought, figure out the purpose that's beyond you and see that you're living in integrity between your values, your talents, your aspiration to live with purpose, because with purpose, you stay connected, and with connection, you live longer. So those would be my 3 core pieces. I know they're not simple to achieve, Peter, but that's what I strive for every day. And let's see what happens.
Super. Feisal, we will share your contact information just in case someone is interested in getting in touch. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I hope we can do that again, maybe for a second video cast. We will also share where you are, how you can be reached. So anyone interested in talking to Feisal or his company or to his approach, please feel free to do so. Feisal, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will see you hopefully soon, and all the best.
Thank you, Peter, for having me, and thank you everyone for listening, and we'll be in touch soon. Thank you.